Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 8th December 2023. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. HARDAN, 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 Haribol, TRSV, Nectar, NECTAR, Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been trying to discuss the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been trying to do in all my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous, present, and future videos. So let us continue with the topic of discussion for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been trying to analyze a very important term in the psyche of every human living entity, whether male or female, in a lifetime in this material world. This particular term is known as mind. According to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has said, mind is the instrument that drives the chariot of life with senses as its horses, intelligence as its driver, and the super and the spirit soul sitting as a hapless passenger in the back seat of that chariot. Now we know how important mind is in the psyche and body of every individual human living entity. Just like an engine is the main part of any vehicle, mind is the main part or instrument in this human vehicle consisting of four layers of material body that envelop a hapless, unevolved, raw spiritual soul. Mind is the subtle form of a mass of tissue called brain in the gross body of any human living entity, whether male or female. This mind is the reservoir of vibrations from the three subtle bodies of causal intelligence, astral mind of feelings and emotions, and the etheric body of senses to the brain, or the vibrations stored in the mind are regularly transmitted to the brain of a human living entity. According to that particular living entity's destiny, karma, evolvement, intelligence, experience, maturity, surroundings, atmosphere, upbringing, tastes, preferences, whims, and fantasies. Some of these vibrations emanating out of those three subtle bodies are used to be processed by that particular living entity's brain, and the resultant juice is percolated down the gross body of that particular living entity to be used to act in this material world. In other words, the original origin of every action of a human a living entity depends on what vibration of the mind to the brain is selected by that brain to be processed in the action of that particular material, a living entity in this material world. That is precisely the reason why there is so much of variety and coloring in this society. Some are born men, some are born women, some are unskilled labor, some skilled labor, some educated guys, some graduates, postgraduates, PhDs, professionals, ordinary clerks, managerial people, and qualified people, teachers, professors, discoverers, inventors, scientists, businessmen, distributors, investors, and entrepreneurs, and also a small section of spiritually inclined people, namely saints, sages, rishis, maharishis, godmen, and so on. This is because of the quality of a vibration selected by their individual brain to be processed, and the resultant juice percolated down the gross body of that particular human living entity. These vibrations come from the causal body of intelligence and logic, astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions, and the etheric body of plain senses, namely five in number. Example: sight, hearing, no, smell, taste, and touch. We also know by now that 70% of this society, or yes, 70 or 75% of the humanity in this society at any time uses vibrations only from his or her etheric body of senses. Infants, babies, children, adolescents, teenagers, adults, young men, middle aged people, old people, male or female, or For that matter, every living entity has to use vibrations from this etheric body of senses to survive in a lifetime in this material world. It cannot do without using it because it is the basis for survival of every human living entity, whether male or female. However, after these 75, there remain only 25% of humanity in this society. Of these, 20% usually listen to the vibrations of the etheric senses plus the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions. These people give the first coloring to the society of humanity. Here, people become businessmen, creators, artists, performing artists, other human beings who think through their heart. They have feelings and emotions that color the society according to their own whims and fantasies. Only 5% of the humanity of this society goes into a creme de la creme of this society. This consists of materialistically or spiritually, cerebrally perfect people. We are just below the spirit soul. These people consist of discoverers, inventors, scientists, professors, lecturers, very big businessmen, creators, entrepreneurs, etc. on the material kind, and just 2% or so of the spiritual variety who are monks, saints, sages, rishis, maharishis, godmen, and so on. These people are generally a minority. Here I would hasten to remind you of one very important English saying. It says, good things come in small packages and bullshit comes comes in bulk. It means that there is a subtle difference between masses and class. Mass includes mundane form of society, whereas class is cerebrally more evolved than this mundane form of society. One who is a spiritual student must always aim at belonging to this class 5% in the society so that he or she may get materialistically or spiritually evolved enough to get self realization of the identity of that particular living entity. He or she must know that he or she was actually a spirit soul which got in touch with this material world long back, as a result of which, to avoid that irritation caused by that touch, This material world surrounded or enveloped that spirit soul with four layers of its own material body. The first layer closest to that spirit soul is called causal body of intelligence and logic. The second layer is known as the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions. And the third layer is known as the etheric body of senses, namely five in number, that is, sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Finally, the whole package was enveloped in a gross body which tends to change from one birth to another. There are five sense organs in this gross body which are used to give an outlet to the five senses of the etheric body of senses. These are two eyes for sight, two ears for hearing, two nostrils for smelling, one tongue for taste, and the skin and genitals for touch. We must also appreciate that this very gross body is used to identify a living entity from another in this huge society of multitude of humanity. However, to make things short, we should know about this mind which plays the role of an instrument to drive this vehicle of sets of bodies of a living entity. Yesterday, we were discussing a particular case history which will authenticate this theory very well. We know by now that one spiritually inclined living entity who had been going into the spiritual journey birth after birth and death after death in the past few births ultimately came to be qualified to be born as one Mukund Lal Ghosh in a very evolved family of a high government official and an extremely spiritually inclined mother who was practicing what is known as Kriya Yoga of meditation. Mukund Lal Ghosh's father was the vice president of the Calcutta Nagpur Railways in the 19th century, whereas Mother Prabhadevi was extremely spiritual by nature. This living entity, which was born as Mukund Lal Ghosh in this particular household, became spiritually inclined right from his childhood. So much so that he began dreaming of mountains and caves in the Himalayas which he had not yet seen and which he thought he will one day go to and meditate as a monk. Probably in his previous birth, he had been some monk who had meditated in these caves in his previous lifetime. It is very difficult to change, but we must appreciate that the only permanent thing in this world is known as change. Destiny had some change designed and confirmed for this living entity which was born as Mukund Lal Ghosh in this particular birth. This vehicle of living entity called Mukund Lal Ghosh was controlled by the engine called mind, which was the driving instrument of that particular vehicle. Vibrations from this mind consisted of past subconscious and superconscious memories of previous lifetimes which guided him through the journey of this particular lifetime. Mukund Lal Ghosh, believe it or not, was so spiritually inclined that even at the age of 8, he began meditating under a shioli tree which was outside his own house in Gorakhpur. Such was his focus and dedication in meditation that people who saw this 8-year-old boy meditate wondered how is it possible. This included his own father and other relatives, but not his own spiritually inclined mother, who was quietly happy that at last she had brought forth a specimen who answered to her own dreams, qualifications, tastes, preferences, whims, and fantasies. Anyway, Mukund Lal Ghosh, though was an average student in school in the material world, was very fond of visiting various monks and saints in West Bengal at that particular moment. He met such monks as Nagendranath Bhaduri, then Soham Swami, also known as Tiger Swami, monk of two bodies, Swami Pranabananda, and so on. This made him more and more spiritually inclined. By now, he knew that meditating quietly in a cave in Himalayas is not his own destiny in this particular lifetime. Destiny had other things in store for him. After knocking around in various spiritual organizations, he ultimately, at the age of 16 or so, met his own spiritual guru in this lifetime in the form of Sri Yukteswaragiri, who ran his own spiritual ashram and organization in some place in Bengal, probably Khidirpur also. This person, Mukund Lal Ghosh, became an ardent disciple of Sri Yukteswaragiri, who was also practicing Kriya Yoga and who saw promise in the eyes of this boy. Unlike the other spiritualists of yore at that time in India, Mukund Lal Ghosh managed to graduate in his education in the material world. In the Western world, a person was appreciated only if he or she was educationally qualified. Hence, Mukund Lal Ghosh, when he graduated, was transformed into a new identity in this material world as a monk by none other than his own spiritual guru, Sri Sri Yukteswaragiri. He was given a new identity and a new name as Swami Yogananda Paramhansa. Swami Yogananda Paramhansa had become so evolved spiritually that at the age of 20 or so, he started his own first society in spiritualism called Yogoda Satsang Society of India with its headquarters in the township of Ranchi, which is the capital of the present day state of Jharkhand in India. People wondered how one small boy of around 20 or 24 could achieve such a very important thing for which many people give their own lives in a lifetime. People could not understand that it was this boy's prarabdha karma working in this lifetime. In this lifetime, he was only 20-year old, but the journey of the spirit soul of this particular living entity had passed through various births and deaths as a spiritual soul. This living entity, called Mukund Lal Ghosh alias Swami Yogananda, had gone through several meditational and spiritual efforts in his previous birth and death, and all through this, his own mind operated to guide him through this journey of spiritualism. This shows the importance of mind, which we are analyzing here. Anyway, at the very early age of 27, Mukund Lal Ghosh, with the financial help provided by his own father, went to America to spread Kriya Yoga in America and through America into other parts of this world. He was only 27, yet he started his own spiritual yoga school of education and exercises in America, and he was ably supported by many spiritualists of that country, including two women and one very noble Christian gentleman who was later called Swami Janakananda. This all he achieved only because his own mind guided his vehicle of living entity in this particular birth. Otherwise, if you imagine, you will find that achieving so much at such an early age looks like it is next to impossible. This guides memories, subconscious memories, and superconscious memories of spiritualism of previous several births had been stored by this mind in its own storage, and when the time came, it sent transmissions to the brain of this living entity, and that particular transmission was processed by that brain, and the resultant juice percolated down the gross body of Mukund Lal Ghosh, which made him totally spiritually inclined. The spiritual organization that Mukund Lal Ghosh started in Ranchi in the year 1917 has today got 185 branches all around the world. Though Sri Yukteswaragiri passed on in 1936 and Swami Yogananda Paramahansa passed on in the year 1952, yet their spiritual organization and school of thought remains active to this day. It has millions of practitioners, followers, and students all around this world. Many spiritually inclined people practice Kriya Yoga in this world even today. This is just because the mind of one particular person born as Mukund Lal Ghosh on 5th January 1893 and spiritually guided by one Priyanath Karar, also called Sri Sri Yukteswaragiri, came to this level of spiritual performance thanks to the vibrations from the mind of this living entity to his own brain. We must all take a leaf of the lives of such great and exalted souls as Sri Sri Yukteswara Giri and Sri Yogananda Paramhans to improve upon our own spiritual journey in this material world. This is the route to ultimate self realization that we are not just a mere vegetating living entity in this material world, but actually our actual identity is that of an individual spirit soul. This is all I wanted to say in this particular video and case history. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular subject in this video. Please give me your own expert views, thoughts, ideas, and opinions so that I may blend everything together for the sake and benefit of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan